leftovers, or the DMV,
Number 97,
or house cleaning, or
Chumba Casino always brings the fun. Play over 100 different games online for free from anywhere. You could redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. Live the Chumba life. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
I'm Amber Ruffin.
And I'm her gorgeous sister, Lacey Lamar.
Okay, fun fact, Lacey is not that gorgeous.
Amber, get on with it.
Okay, everybody, we have exciting news to share. We're teaming up with Will Ferrell's Big Money Players Network to bring you our brand new podcast called The Amber and Lacey and Amber Show.
We did it. We sold a bunch of books, we conquered late night, and now we'll play fun quizzes and games with friends and take you along for the ride. Listen to The Amber and Lacey and Amber Show on Will Ferrell's Big Money Players Network on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi there, I'm Zach Braff.
And I'm Donald Faison.
We're real-life best friends, but we met playing fake-life best friends, Turk and JD, on the sitcom Scrubs.
20 years later, we've decided to rewatch the series one episode at a time and put our memories into a podcast you can listen to at home.
We're going to get all our special guest friends like Sarah Chalk, John C. McGinley, Neil Flynn, Judy Reyes.
Show creator Bill Lawrence, editors, writers, and even prop masters will tell us about what inspired the series and how we became a family.
You can listen to the podcast Fake Doctors, Real Friends with Zach and Donald on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you get your podcasts.
This is the Jabberjaw Podcast Network.
It's that time. You know you need to sign up for YouTube Music Premium. It is a new app that combines everything you'd expect from a streaming service with the magic of YouTube to bring everything to life. With YouTube Music Premium, you get ad-free music that plays with the screen off or while using other apps. Get music wherever you want it, whenever you want it, even when you're offline. Download the new YouTube Music app today and start a free 30-day trial. Then you just pay $9.99 per month. Terms and restrictions, of course, apply. Just do it, okay? This is a great app. All right, now here's the show. What's up, everybody? How are you doing? I'm Ray Harkins. This is 100 Words or Less, the podcast. I always like to really enunciate the words in the introduction in order to get your attention. Anyways, this is the podcast in which I bring on people who are involved in independent music and who have done cool things, who are still involved, who've created music, who have created records, who have created art that profoundly influences us for the rest of our lives, right? I know that sounds dramatic, but it is absolutely true. And I often kind of lose track of that when I'm, kind of churning through these episodes. And it's only when I look back where I'm just like, this is, 300, this has been like almost 70 years of my life. And I look back on the people who I've had on the show and I'm just like, wow, this is like my love letter to independent music, which frankly is kind of why I do what I do. So anyways, the guest this week is Nate Newton, who is the bass player for Converge and has also played in Jesuit, Old Man Gloom, Doomriders, you name it. He's probably touched it within the heavy music world. And he's been a person who has circled my orbit for quite some time. I actually, just randomly Facebook messaged him one day and was like, dude, would you be interested in this? And he's like, absolutely. And sometimes I feel weird if I'm like not going through quote unquote official channels like a publicist or whatever. But, this awesome music community is not about those barriers. It's just about like, hey, you wanna talk? Yeah, sure. That sounds awesome. And so Nate and I did it, and it was such a fun conversation. I will tell you more about it in a moment, but what you need is band merch, right? It is the holidays. They're right upon us. We are like inches away from being Christmas and December, and you need to use the code PCJabberjaw at rockabilia.com. That code will get you 15% off whatever merch you order. You can do, it's a one-stop shop. You can just order like 15 shirts, or maybe you can 13 shirts and like 2 hoodies, whatever combo you want. You will get 15% off your order. And I just love the company so much because they say this, I say this all the time. And when I actually think about that number, it's staggering. 500,000 items they have for sale. It's unbelievable. The company relies upon your support and your interest in music. So please support the supportive, right? That's what I always try to do. And Rockabilia has a ton of items from all your favorite bands. And you just need to do that, okay? PC Jabberjaw, 15% off, rockabilia.com. Great partners. I love them so, so much. So that's that, right? What else has been happening? Well, I'm glad you asked. I am still recovering from the shows I was played like 2 weeks or so ago. And now I'm setting up interviews with all of the Thursday members who I hadn't hung out with or spoke to in quite some time. So you'll have that to look forward to in the new year. But what I want from you, the listener, I want feedback from. Like, you are kind enough and you leave, reviews and occasionally toss me some emails, and I appreciate that. Continue to do that. But I want you to be directional. I want you to email the show, 100wordspodcast@gmail.com, and you can tell me what you like about the show, what you don't like about the show, what guests you would like to see for 2019. I just want to get that feedback going, because sometimes I feel like I live in a little bubble. I'm just kind of doing my own thing, and it's fine and it's fun. But there's some times where I'm just like, yeah, am I doing okay? Like, is this what it is that you want? It's not to say that I will get an email and be like, oh yes, I will absolutely, get that guest, or I will adopt that thing into the show. But I just want that feedback. Okay. Is that too much asked for you? I'm talking to you. That's walking your dog right now. Anyways, that is what I want. That is my December wish for you to, these emails to kind of trickle in and be like, hey, it'd be great if you had this guest. And I'll put a caveat on it right now. I do not want emails asking to interview like Ian Mackay or Henry Rollins, because I'll be honest, those people have been spoken to for, like, I don't know, 15, 20 years about their involvement in independent music, and I don't know what I really could bring to the table. And this isn't like me being, I guess, defeatist or being like, oh, I don't know if I could do a good job. Like, I know I could do a solid enough job, but I just, I really don't want to rehash all the stuff that's been hashed out many times. And I understand there are many portions of these conversations I have that are, just kind of hashing some respects of old business, whether it's like, a person's upbringing or whatever. But the way that I try to lay it out is very much like it's a continuum. It shows you the forward momentum of a person, of how they got involved, why they got involved, all that sort of stuff. So anyways, just a little caveat, okay? There are certain people where I'm just, I was going to say they're blacklisted. No, if Henry Rollins came to me and was like, hey, Ray, I'd love to be on your show, of course I would say yes. But I'm just not going to actively pursue that for obvious reasons, or not obvious reasons to me, okay? So just want to put it out there. Anyways, Nate was such a rad sport, and I love it when I trip people up in the sense of he answers some biographical questions that I put to him earlier on in our chat, where he's like, dude, I've never revealed this before. And it's never, it brings me joy in the fact that it's like, oh wow, like I'm glad that you feel safe enough to reveal this to me, because this is just a fun conversation. I'm not trying to, expose someone's background or get them in trouble or anything like that. But when you have a natural conversation, those are the things that come out. And when you feel safe enough to share that, I take that as a very high honor. So I appreciate that, Nate. I'm very excited to share this episode with you. So here we go. Let's talk to Nate. And I think the first time that I really kind of became aware of you was, so I saw Jesuit and Iyer at the barn in Riverside. And
oh yeah,
that was anyway.
Was that with Botch?
Yes, it was.
Yes.
Yeah. I just like
Caveman.
Yes,
Caveman too.
Exactly. That's right. Those tours kind of came together, because you weren't on, like, all four of you guys weren't on tour together, or were you?
No, but we ended up meeting up on the East Coast, on the West Coast for a few shows.
Right. That's right. Yeah. But yeah, it was one of those things where that was like the complete confluence of, all of these, amazing metallic hardcore bands, and that, not only your tour, but then the tour, with Caveman and Botch was like the total embodiment of it. But, at that show, there's probably like, I don't know, 40 people there or so, like maybe.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
And
I remember it being a good show, though. I mean,
it was.
Like, yeah, my brain is pretty cooked. But yeah, like I've done so many tours now and played so many shows that it's like hard for me to visualize specific ones. But that one I remember. Doesn't that place have like? Didn't it have like picnic tables or something? And like it was open air almost.
Yeah, you were very correct. Look at that. That's
okay.
You're impressing me and yourself, I'm sure, at the same time. It was
awesome. Yeah,
there was like picnic tables on the outside because it was on a college campus, and like you could tell that this was just kind of a random room that they had there. But that you know. I think that show in particular was so interesting just because it was like, you know, both you and Ire were this, you know, very dark, brooding, you know, metallic hardcore stuff. And, you know, I mean, Cave and Botch were similar-ish, but it just really kind of showed all of the different facets that you can have within that sort of, you know, noisy hardcore stuff. I'm sure in retrospect you can kind of look at that and be like, oh yeah, I see what you're saying. But I'm sure at the time you were not. I mean, you were just excited to play with your friends, I'm sure.
Yeah, a little. I mean, yes, I can look back on it now and see exactly what you mean. Then, yeah, definitely just psyched to be playing with our friends. But also, you know, I remember thinking back then, like, we've got this whole other thing going on that's not, you know, it's not really connected to what else is happening in the hardcore or metal scenes. And, like, you know, I think we all sort of had this vibe that was like, this is our thing. It's a new thing. We don't give a fuck about anybody else's thing.
Yeah. It definitely, you guys definitely had that attitude. I mean, especially Jesuit and Ire to a certain extent where, you know, you were playing in front of people, but I wouldn't go so far as to call it like, you know, performance art as far as the confrontation is concerned. But like you said, that attitude of just like, well, if you're here, like, that's cool, but like, we'll be doing this no matter what.
Yeah. I mean, we definitely had an antagonistic streak. Yeah. I don't really know where that came from. It was a weird time in my life for sure. But yeah, like, I think, you know, we were so used to going out and playing shows to, you know, 5-10 people, no one caring, that it was just sort of like, well, whatever, fuck you, we're doing this. We don't care if you're here.
Right. And I mean, I think, and at that juncture too, in punk and hardcore, there was no real roadmap for a band being able to look at like, oh yes, this can become a sustainable career. Like that wasn't a notion.
That's certainly, I don't think any of us ever thought that was a possibility. And, you know, specifically back then, you know, kind of the really popular stuff was, you know, your more kind of meat and potatoes, kind of like straightforward throwback hardcore, if that makes sense. Like the kind of worshipping stuff that happened 10 to 15 years before, which is fine, but it just didn't appeal to me. And like, I think all of us really kind of came at the whole scene and touring and playing out and making records with this attitude, like, you know, we're just not interested in what's happening, and we want to destroy everything that's happening and make something completely different. And yeah, I know, I think I'm repeating myself right now, but
no, well, but you're speaking to a feeling that I think many people have when they look at stuff around them, especially, you know, locally or whatever, where you start playing shows and you start to recognize the sort of bands that are, you know, either playing your shows or the bands that come through on tour. And, you know, because you are usually like a young, dumb kid where you're like, oh yeah, they're doing that thing, so I'm going to zig when they zag. And like, that's just kind of, you know, part and parcel.
Yeah, pretty much. That kind of sums it up. You know, like, I got into hardcore when I was pretty young, and, you know, I feel like, maybe not myself, but, you know, when I got into it, you had that last sort of vestige of the, you know, the first and second generation people who, like, when they got into it, they were you know, like it was legitimate fuck ups and people who had nowhere else to go. And so like, you know, my introduction to it may have been not what other people had been introduced to. It was, you know, it was scary and kind of violent and fucked up, and like it wasn't a safe environment. And I felt like by that point things had become really, you know, I guess for lack of a better word, safe and contrived in a lot of ways. And I just wanted to make something and be a part of something that was the opposite of that. That was just, you don't know what's going to happen. And, you know, things could go very wrong or very right. You know, let's see what happens.
Right. Yeah.
Most of the time they went very wrong.
Yeah.
Jesuit.
Right. Yeah. Well, and you know, I think when you have that experience, you're able to look at, you know, when you have a good show with anything else, you're like, oh yeah, like that's an actual good show, as opposed to, you know, the other shows where the wheels are falling off and everything like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Jesuit, with that band, like the wheels were never on.
That's true. Yeah. The car never went out of the driveway.
Yeah. Once we got one wheel on, the other one would fall off. So.
Right. Yeah. So kind of focused on you as a person. You know, I know you were born and raised in Virginia Beach, and you know, you've kind of talked about your family structure as far as like, you know, mom and dad and brother in the house. It seems like the way that, you know, I've seen you speak about it in the past is that you know, it's a pretty supportive and loving household that you were raised in. Is that kind of a proper characterization? And where, I guess, culturally speaking, like where did your family come from?
Yeah, I guess that's pretty accurate. You know, I mean, it was your sort of classic, boring suburban youth. So like, just like anywhere else, you know, you just get fucking bored and start doing stupid shit, and that's pretty much what happened. Culturally, I mean, you know, actually both of my parents were born and raised in Virginia, so you know, they're pretty Southern Virginia, Southeastern Virginia. So if you know Virginia at all, there's a big difference between Southeastern Virginia and other parts. But yeah, you know, pretty. It's weird growing up in Virginia Beach. It's like there's like this weird sort of mix of like pseudo redneck meets surfer meets like weird military thing going on. My family was not a military family, but you know, we were just constantly surrounded by that. My grandmother immigrated here in the 50s, and yeah.
Got it. I mean, where did she immigrate from?
From Japan.
Okay.
And that's a big one, man. I never tell anybody that, just because I really like people not knowing what my ethnicity is, because I get really funny comments about it.
Well, no, no, and that it's funny. The only reason that I asked that is because, you know, there is this notion, especially in punk and hardcore, where it's just like, you know, it's a bunch of white suburban people, and so it's like anytime, like, you know, I don't care how old you are, when you see a person that is, you know, not a white suburban person, it's like, oh, cool. Like, especially when you know, first start to go to shows and you actually are starting to wake up to the idea that, oh, like, you know, me speaking as a white suburban boy, like, you know, I mean, this is, you know, off the beaten topic, but, you know, a band like Race Trader being like, hey, yeah, burn the idol of your white messiah. And I'm just like, holy shit. Like, okay. Yeah. Like, yeah, maybe my experience isn't the same as everybody else's. And so, yeah.
Oh yeah, very much. I mean, where I grew up, like, it's a strange demographic because of the military and stuff. So like there was a very high Asian population. So like, you know, the shows were pretty mixed. You know, like, I mean, my school was very culturally and racially diverse. And I mean, you know, the culture just in general of the area reflected that, even though, you know, you had this very kind of conservative military culture happening at the same time. But yeah, so I'm Hapa, as they say.
Yeah, no, and I do think you speak to the experience of Virginia Beach, because it's that town is so strange. Like I've toured and played shows through there, and then also like I worked for PETA for 5 years, so like went to the Norfolk office, and like that whole area. Yeah, that whole area is so bizarre because it is this confluence of surf culture in a way that, I mean, being from Southern California, like it's inescapable. And so it's weird when another city has it, because you're just like, wait a minute, that's our thing. Like, whoa, I guess they're surfing in Virginia Beach, but like, yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. The surf culture there has been huge for a long time. Like wave riding vehicles started in Virginia Beach, and it's, a worldwide surf brand, which is, pretty awesome. But, yeah, like you said, there's like the surf culture, there's the military culture, there's like this kind of wild, conservative Christian thing going on.
Right.
And then in the middle of all of it, you have all these bored, suburban, oppressed, well, not oppressed, repressed, youth who, wanted something to do, I guess. So we went to punk shows, and we were lucky, being somewhat close to Washington, D.C., and, not being too far from being close to Richmond and stuff. So like bands came through, When I was young, there were steady venues, but it seems like that has changed quite a bit since I left.
Yeah, definitely. It seems to, yeah. I mean, like most places, when you have a transient community of, families and whatever, it's like, yeah, sometimes places are, it's like Las Vegas. Like that's, try to find an all ages venue there that stays there for, more than 5 years. That just doesn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty nuts.
So like you mentioned, you got into like punk and hardcore at a pretty early age, and it sounds like, I've kind of pieced together some of the stories that you've told as far as like, your parents were always into music and, taking you to shows, and then understanding the fact that you were into this and not being like, oh, like Nate's into something weird, we need to like, cut that off at the legs or whatever. Do you
there were a couple of little minor moments like that where, I had to have some talks because, family came over and visited and went through my record collection. We're like reading lyrics to my grandmother and stuff. Like,
right.
Yeah. In particular, one of my aunts picked up the first Suicidal Tendencies album and was reading the lyrics to my grandmother. And then they were, then all of a sudden it was a big deal, and they had to have a talk with me, and I'm just like, what are you talking about?
Right.
It's like a comic book. I'm not gonna kill my mommy. I don't even like Pepsi. Like, what the fuck?
Right. Yeah, and you're like,
what are you talking about?
And you're probably like, this record's been sitting here for like 6 months, and you haven't questioned it, and then all of a sudden someone randomly looks at it, and then there's a problem.
Yeah, and I'm like, hey, why don't you read this one? And I'll, look at the Minor Threat record. Read those lyrics. Like, come on.
Yeah, you picked the wrong one.
There's a lot of stuff going on here, guys. I'm not stupid.
No, that's it.
I'm stupid, but just not the way you think I'm stupid.
Right, exactly. No, I love that. I love that notion where it's like, yeah, you even if you come from a house, like you said, that is supportive over the things that you get interested in, there is always those moments of like, okay, I think this is a bridge too far.
Yeah. And it's funny because, I remember at a very young age, like, my parents were super cool with letting me mess around with their stereo and like putting records on and, pulling out like Diamond Dogs by David Bowie and Rock and Roll Animal by Lou Reed and shit like that. And I'm like, these records are fucked up, made by junkies. And
right. You're
okay.
Fine.
And you're like, you're getting angry about some, garage band of, that's a couple of a few teenagers making up legitimately silly, stupid songs to make themselves laugh. Like that's,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like, I think maybe, their head was like, okay, well, Nate is not going to know that these guys were strung out on heroin,
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Trust me in saying that therapy is an incredible tool for as you are traveling through life, because who you are as a person, 5 or 10 years ago is maybe a completely different version of yourself, because we run into challenges, whether it's work, whether it's life stuff, relationships, all of those things you can work through with a therapist. And that is why I love BetterHelp and what they do. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online and it's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. All you have to do is fill out a brief questionnaire, and then you get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Discover your potential with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/Ray to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/Ray. Dip in, give therapy a try, and become a better person.
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Hey, everybody, I'm Amber Ruffin.
And I'm her beautiful sister, Lacey Lamar.
Fun fact about Lacey, she's not as beautiful as I am. You guys, we have a brand new podcast on Will Ferrell's Big Money Players Network called The Amber and Lacey and Amber Show.
We are New York Times bestselling authors, and we've written 2 books on everyday racism that made you gasp and laugh at the same time.
We done did it. Mm-hmm. We sold a bunch of books. We were on Late Night with Seth Meyers and The Amber Ruffin Show. And now we only have one frontier to conquer. That's podcasts.
Podcast, baby.
This quiz show is going to be fun. We're going to have celebrities. We're going to quiz them about things that they are experts at. And we'll see who wins and who loses.
You got to watch us. Ooh, no, you have to listen to us. I mean, you can still watch us, but you got to listen.
But if you're watching us, you have to tell us. You can't just be watching us.
Listen to the Amber and Lacey and Amber Show on Will Ferrell's Big Money Players Network, on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Just all of the dark stuff that, you can get when you actually listen to the record, but they were like, oh, maybe he's protected from that. But these guys talking about kill.
Come on, Lou Reed had,
I know.
Reed had a song called Heroin.
I know. That's true.
But yeah, cool. Yeah, it's suicidal tendencies, which is obviously a joke. That's a big deal. Okay.
Yeah. All right. That's called a double standard. Thanks, Mom and Dad.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
They were young. My parents were super young, so it's all good.
Right.
And I don't even think they wanted to have a talk with me about it. They were just like, okay. Let's maybe just cover those up when your grandmother comes over.
Right. Put those in the closet, Nate. Come on. Casper mattress is the best thing that you will ever sleep on. They are a sleep brand that continues to revolutionize its line of products to create an exceptionally comfortable sleep experience one night at a time. They got 3 models, okay? The original Casper, the Wave, and the Essential. Their mattresses are perfectly designed to soothe and cradle your natural geometry. Did you think you were a math problem? Well, Casper knows. Not to mention super breathable design that helps you sleep cool and regulates your body temperature throughout the night. Plus, it's delivered to your door in a small, how do they fit that in there, sized box with free shipping and returns in the US and Canada. The best part is that you can absolutely be sure about your purchase because they have a 100-night risk-free sleep on it trial. You spend a third of your life sleeping, so you should absolutely be comfortable. I cannot tell you how much I enjoy my Casper. I tell anybody who asks me, or I hear a conversation about mattresses, I chime in on social media, whatever it is, Casper is the best. I sleep on it every night, and I've slept on it every night for about 2.5 years. I love it so much. And plus, my wife loves it. Then that's an added bonus. My son keeps requesting a Casper for him. I'm like, yo, dude, wait till you grow up a little bit, okay? I can't just drop another mattress on you. You still have your own mattress, okay? But anyways, you need to get $50 off towards select mattresses by visiting casper.com/words and using the code WORDS at checkout. That's casper.com/words, offer code WORDS, and you will get $50 off. That's like me giving you, a good, like maybe a month's worth of really good sleep. Okay. Terms and conditions, of course, apply, but Casper is the best. I love them so much, and you need to try them out. Okay.
I find it interesting now that, people like, you and I who have existed within the context of this music scene for a while. And like now that we have children, does that kind of, I guess, permissiveness of what your parents, did to you, does that kind of, I guess, ping pong around your head as you are raising your own children? Or is that something that, you're conscious of, but you don't actively think about it?
Yeah, I'm pretty open to letting my kid, just listen to music and check out art. I mean, within reason. I'm not gonna pull out a Cannibal Corpse album and be like, here, check this out.
Check out
Hammer Smash Face. You're gonna love it.
Right. Yeah. How about the deep cut of entrails ripped from a virgin's cunt? You gonna be into that one? It's like,
you're not. We're not gonna listen to Gizm records together, but
right.
She, my kid likes Bad Brains and stuff like that, and that's fine by me.
Yeah. No, that's cool. This is me kind of playing sort of, I wouldn't even call it armchair psychologist, but just, observing you, because I've seen you play in many different iterations and, seen Converge probably more times than I could count. No, I know this will be good. I mean, this is not going to surprise you, but you've always struck me as the guy that is coming into a room kind of both guns blazing, and like not in a dickish way, but just in a like, hey, there's Nate, like he's maybe the loud guy, he's maybe the funny guy. Has that? No, honestly, like this is not coming from a judgmental place at all.
No, I understand,
but. Has that always kind of like been who you are? Have you always kind of been that person that's basically come into a room and people have to kind of grapple with with you, whether they like you or whether they don't like you?
I guess that's kind of tough to answer. I mean, I want to say no.
Sure.
Because when I was. I specifically remember being kind of the opposite of that when I was young. And when I was 13, 12 or 13, I think 12, my family moved to Atlanta for a year. We kind of got uprooted, and like, I, didn't have any friends, and went from, this like super surf culture kind of spot where my dad surfed, and like we left a place where I was comfortable and moved to rural Georgia, not Atlanta, actually outside of Atlanta, and to this completely just different kind of place, and like nobody was feeling my vibe, and so I was just kind of like, all right, well, I could just be miserable and fucking sit in the corner. I've got to figure out how to make friends with people. And so maybe that's kind of like, it came from being self-conscious, I guess. Like, just like, I'm just going to be loud and fucking ridiculous and wear it almost as a mask. And like, kind of push myself into these situations so that once I'm comfortable, I can then turn it down a few notches, I guess. I don't know.
No,
at this point in life, I don't even know. I guess it's just the way I operate. And like, I've kind of come to the conclusion that in life that, most of the time, like you said earlier, for me, I just find it easier to just throw all the cards out on the table and just be like, this is what I am. Mm-hmm. If you're cool with it, hang out. If you're not cool with it, there's the door.
Right. No, I can understand and empathize with that. 'Cause there definitely is, people, no matter, what sort of, group of friends you are with in high school, like there's always going to be that person that, is going to be, the louder one, or the one that's going to be like, hey guys, we got to do this stupid thing because it'll be fun. Like you always need that person in the group. And, you don't think about it in those terms of, like you said, laying the cards out on the table, but, it's true where if you're at a,
I've got plenty of cringeworthy moments that I think about, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm such an obnoxious fucking idiot, man. But,
sure.
Yeah. Like, I mean, especially like what you were saying earlier with kind of knowing me through music and like seeing my bands play and stuff. Like, a lot of that is like, I get like crazy stage fright, and I get like super, super anxious before I play a show, and I have to like get myself into this mindset where it's like, I'm going up there and I'm just going to do it, it, like, to the point where it's like, I'm going to just put everything into it. I don't know what it's going to be, but when I get up there, I'm just doing it, and it might be horrible, but
right.
It could, like I said earlier, it could be great or it could be terrible, but I'm just going to do it and own it and see what happens.
Yeah. Well, and I do think, especially in the context of what you've been doing for most of your musical life and playing with Converge, Converge, rightly or wrongly, is a, quote unquote serious band. It's for the artistic expression is very serious, but then, anybody that were to see you guys live would realize that there's, a yin to that yang. And like, you definitely step into that void of just like, yeah, we're producing serious art, but like, we know how to make fun of ourselves. Like, we know how to be self-deprecating,
Yeah, well, like when it gets too heavy, certain bands, they can do that and they transcend their seriousness, and it takes you to another place. Like Neurosis is one of those bands where like they're taking you on a journey, There are other bands that, get on stage and have this like, we're a serious bunch of artists kind of vibe, and it just sucks. It's just like, this isn't fun. I'm not enjoying this. I feel like I'm supposed to be watching you and finding some sort of artistic fucking, catharsis in this, and I'm not, and I'm just bored. Mm-hmm. So like, I feel like what's missing from a lot of bands that have serious kind of, I don't know, whatever, like serious material is the lack of humanity in it. Like I want to get up there and put on a great show and play and give it my all, but I also want people to walk away from it feeling like, those were people up there doing that, and they showed me that I could do the same thing if I wanted to, I don't know. You need something to connect with people more than just your music. You need to be connecting with them on a human level. And I don't, I guess that's what I'm going for with that, in Converge at least.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh no, I agree wholeheartedly. Cause otherwise when there's this notion of feeling like these impenetrable humans because, they're, some 17-year-old kid seeing Converge for the first time is looking at, 40-year-old guys absolutely shred. And they're just like, there's no way that I could like do that in some capacity. And then like, you like, if they were to speak to you, you would be like, oh yeah, you could do this probably like 10 times better than we can. So like, don't feel that barrier between the crowd and the audience,
Yeah, and I've had that conversation many times. Like I've had, like I couldn't tell you how many times this was like my thing that I've always loved to do is like, meet a kid after a show, and he's like, especially a young kid, and I've never seen you, I love your band, blah blah blah, and I'm like, awesome, you play music? Yeah, and I'm like, what do you mean but? Like, the next time we come back here, I want you to come to the show, and I want you to bring me your band's demo or your band's record, even, like, make it happen, like, I guess for me, that was always like a big reason why I was always driven is because there were people older than me who were doing it before me, who made that same, who pushed me the same way, like I said earlier, growing up in Virginia, we were lucky to be so close to Richmond. And, I remember in high school seeing Avail play, every other week or whatever. And, one day I I started this really horrible band with some friends from high school, and we were having fun, and we went to an Avail show, and like I had my demo tape, and like I remember, plain as day, Tim walking by me and seeing me holding a stack of demo tapes, and he was like, "That's your band? You have a demo?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "I want to buy one." And I was like, "Buy one? No, here, right, I'll give it to you." And he was just like, "No, dude, I'm buying it." And then he was like, so stoked. And then I remember getting a phone call from him, like, he got my number from the demo, and like getting a call from him like 2 weeks later, like, "Hey man, we want you to come play some shows with us," and like being like super encouraging, like just because there was there was a new punk band from Virginia, they were psyched. And like, so I've always, like, that's as cheesy as it sounds, it's like a thing that I feel like we need to kind of pay forward. And that's sort of what I've always tried to do.
Sure. Well, I think there's a difference in the train of thought where, like you view this as an obligation, and not like a weighty obligation, but something that is important to you. So that's why you focus on it. And I think like, people that, forget that, like that's when, their band or their art has kind of become so elevated that, people probably have, they might have an easy time consuming it, but then it just becomes these untouchable people that are creating things that no one has any idea of how to start, So I think that's a really important point.
Yeah. It's for me, what drew me to hardcore is that it was a people's medium, and anyone could do it. There wasn't much of a difference between the audience and the band on stage. I mean, I've said this in a million interviews, but like
Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Hey everybody, I'm Amber Ruffin.
And I'm her beautiful sister, Lacey Lamar.
Fun fact about Lacey, she's not as beautiful as I am. You guys, we have a brand new podcast on Will Ferrell's Big Money Players Network called The Amber and Lacey and Amber Show.
We are New York Times bestselling authors, and we've written 2 books on everyday racism that made you gasp and laugh at the same time.
We done did it. We sold a bunch of books. We were on Late Night with Seth Meyers and The Amber Ruffin Show. And now we only have one frontier to conquer. That's podcasts.
Podcasts, baby.
This quiz show is going to be fun. We're going to have celebrities. We're going to quiz them about things that they are experts at. And we'll see who wins and who loses.
You gotta watch us. Ooh, no, you have to listen to us. I mean, you can still watch us, but you gotta listen.
But like, if you're watching us, you have to tell us. You can't just be watching us.
Listen to the Amber and Lacey and Amber Show on Will Ferrell's Big Money Players Network, on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Firmly believe that that's what made it so powerful, and so, like you said, it's an obligation. At least to me, it is, and that goes for pretty much everything in life, whether it's music or art or skateboarding or literally doing anything, starting a business, doing anything positive in your life. Like, I've never been like the positive hardcore guy or anything, but, I've also always been like, fuck yeah, man, do it. You can do this.
Totally.
It makes me happy to do that. So
yeah, absolutely. No, I totally get that.
In a world where everyone is confined to their homes, society begins its largest binge watch to date. In the hallowed library of Hulu, or perhaps on a shelf of DVDs you haven't looked at in a decade, is a show that perfectly encapsulates life in the early aughts and launched a friendship that would inspire millions. Hi, I'm Zach Braff.
And I'm Donald Faison.
In 2001, we starred in Scrubs, a sitcom that revealed a glimpse of what it was like to survive a medical internship. As Turk and JD, we explored guy love.
Nearly 20 years later, a lot has changed. We're not Supermen, but we're still best friends. Given the mandatory lockdown, there's no better time to relive the series that brought us together in the first place. And we're doing it with a podcast.
That's right, people. We're going to bring friends and crew members and fellow cast members and writers. And guess what? We're going to even invite some of you to call into the podcast and ask all the questions you want of the entire Sacred Heart staff.
Join us for Fake Doctors, Real Friends on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you get your podcasts.
There is no reason that you need to be using terrible luggage, and I am here to solve your problem. Away has the perfect gift for everybody that is on your list. Away creates a thoughtful standard for modern travel with universal pieces that reflect your own style and make every single trip so much easier. They've considered all types of travelers making their carry-on bags, which are available in 2 sizes and come with an optional ejectable battery that charges your phone up to 5 times. Plus, they have 4 360-degree spinner wheels, a removable washable laundry bag, a TSA-approved combination lock, and an interior compression system that lets you pack more. Shop the Away carry-ons in Away Signature's German polycarbonate or aluminum alloy. Both are guaranteed for life. I love Away so much. I got this suitcase probably about a year and a half ago, and basically every single trip I've taken, from a weekend to, being gone for 2 weeks, being on tour, whatever the case may be, Away is always traveling with me. It makes it so much easier to pack, super sturdy. Anytime anybody sees this luggage, they're like, yo, what is that? I tell them it's Away. Why have you not purchased this yet? And then I give them the website and boom, done. So get $20 off your first suitcase. Visit awaytravel.com/words and use promo code WORDS during checkout. That's awaytravel.com/words and use promo code WORDS during checkout for $20 off a suitcase. Because this season, everyone wants to get away. You see what I did there? Okay, now on with the show.
Kind of along those same lines, you've always, like you mentioned earlier with stage fright and, the fact that you get nervous before you play, like that, that's kind of a common experience. But there's been an air of like confidence about you, where it's like, you're comfortable in your own skin. And, a lot of that obviously becomes, when you're an adult, like you don't really care about what other people think from that perspective. Has the confidence kind of always been there in some capacity, or is it you just basically were able to kind of step into it as you got older?
I mean, a lot of the confidence really is just completely a farce. Like it's literally me convincing myself, like, you're confident, you're doing this, like being the, that cheesy dude staring in the mirror, like, you can do this.
Right. Totally.
I mean, not actually doing that, but you know what I mean?
The self-talk.
But yeah, like, I mean, just that's the bottom line with a lot of stuff in life. It's just convincing yourself enough that you can just make yourself start doing it. And then once you're in it, then it's like, okay, you can kind of lose yourself in it, and that's, I mean, even still to this day, we play shows where I'm just like, fuck, how am I going to play this show? Like, oh my God, I'm freaking out.
Right.
And you're literally just like, okay, fuck this, turn it off. You're going into kill mode right now. Like,
totally.
You turn it off.
Take no prisoners.
You're not here. You're not at this show. We're going out there. You're going to hurt yourself. You're going to hurt whoever comes near you. Like, I know how dumb and cheesy that sounds, but like, a lot of like the, shredding and jumping and going nuts stuff is literally just trying to shake that off.
Yeah. Nervous energy. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Totally. No, that's cool. It sounds to me with your, once you got into like punk and hardcore and started playing in, Lift and Channel and all the earlier bands that you were doing, like, did you care about school, or was it one of those things where you were just like, I just want to skate and play in bands? Like, school is a distant third.
Dude, I sucked at school.
Okay.
Like, I never had interest in it. I'm sure that I had some sort of like attention problem. Like I just couldn't fucking focus. I couldn't pay attention. The only thing I've ever been able to focus on is music. And, like, much to my family's chagrin, like I got through high school and was like, college? Fuck, all right, sure. I guess I'm supposed to go to college.
Sure.
And I went to community college for like a semester and was just like, yeah, I can't do this. I literally just couldn't fucking, I couldn't concentrate, couldn't keep up, didn't know what was happening. All I wanted, it's like you said, all I wanted to do was just play music and skate.
Sure.
For better or worse, I guess that could have gone any number of directions. I've been really lucky, obviously, but like, I know other dudes who were the same way that just piled out big time, so yeah, I don't know. I've been lucky.
Yeah, for sure. And I presume because of that, the fact that you were just like, well, whatever, I just care about playing in bands and skating. There was no sort of, I guess, career focus or trajectory of like, oh, this is how I'm going to make money later on in life. It's like, nah, I'll figure that out when I have to.
No, yeah, I never cared. I mean, it was literally like, oh, I'm broke. I better get a job.
Right. I got to work at the bagel store.
This job sucks.
Right.
Yeah, this job sucks, but whatever. I can still skate and play music.
Right. It'll allow me to tour.
Yeah, and then it was like, oh, yeah, I want to go on tour. Oh, well, we can't give you the time. I quit.
That's amazing.
Whatever.
Yeah. I can just envision it where it's like they're not even through with the sentence and you're just like, that's fine, turning in your apron, just like walking out.
Numerous times I've done that, and I don't advise that as a life plan to anyone listening to this.
Right.
But yeah,
that was your path. That's fine. And we're not offering an advice column. This is, this is simply just your story.
Yeah. I mean, you got to be smart about the decisions you make too. Like, I mean, when I joined Converge, I was already good friends with them. I was already a fan. And I could see the potential that they had as a band, like they were already a great band, but like, I remember, like talking to Jake about music and all the stuff he was into and just thinking, why aren't you, well, you should be incorporating these influences that you love so much into what you're doing. And then like, Kurt giving me like his project band's demo tapes, like the Huguenots. And I remember listening to that and being like, Kurt, what the fuck? This is so good. Why aren't these riffs in Converge songs? Like, oh, because Converge is more metal. I'm like, who fucking cares?
Right.
What? And so, but yeah, like I never thought that Converge could ever possibly be a thing that made money. But when the opportunity for me to start playing with them came up, like I definitely saw the potential to make music with some people who like were on to some different shit. You know what I mean? That were like, I was like, this could go in a really interesting direction. And I really want to be a part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And that actually dovetails into a question I was going to ask. So like when you joined Converge, like you said, they had a reputation. They already existed for a while. They were a touring act. Like all of these things existed where it was like, you were stepping onto, a train that was already moving as opposed to, hasn't left the station. Pardon the horrible analogy there, but,
no, I mean, that makes total sense.
So like, as you started to, get involved in this world where you were playing, the biggest shows you've ever played and, on the tours that you were just like, wow, I can't even believe I'm here. What are some I know you said earlier your brain is fried, but what are some early moments like, as you started to go out with Converge, whether it's from a touring perspective or, writing music with them or whatever the case may be that kind of stood out where you were like, I really can't believe I'm like here doing this right now.
I mean, I remember my very first show with Converge. It was crazy. I think it was the first Crazy Fest, and so it was packed. I mean, there were like 2,000 people there, and that's like for a hard. I mean, that's a lot for a hardcore show now, but for a hardcore show in 1998, that was unheard of. And so like we were like, this is the biggest thing that's ever happened, and I just got in the van with these guys yesterday, and I only started trying to learn the songs 4 days ago. so what the fuck? I don't really know these songs, so I'm just going to jump around and go crazy.
Right.
And, but I just remember, I remember that being a moment where I was like, holy shit, this is, and I don't mean the band, I mean just hardcore and punk and everything in general. I remember standing up there and just thinking like, wow, this is so much bigger than me and my friends. Like there's something here, and I'm really psyched to see what happens with it.
Sure. Yeah, this is definitely of a different level that you did not experience before. So yeah, I could easily see what. Yeah, it's like it's not just me dicking around.
And then we left from there and played to 20 people every night. But
right.
Yeah. But yeah, like I mean that whole first tour was very much like that for me. I think for all of us in a way. Like it was I felt like I'd finally met people that was making music with people who were on the same page as far as not just wanting to make good music, but like wanting to go out there and, just crush. I don't know. I sound like a fucking jock right now.
No, no, dude. Well, I remember this. One of my most crystallized memories of seeing you guys was at it's like New England Metal and Hardcore Festival. I was there because I worked for that label Century Media Records for like 10 years doing A&R and stuff, and so like we always had a table there. So I think it was, gosh, I want to say it was like maybe, I don't know, 2002, whatever. It was early 2000s. But I just remember it was like, that's a weird festival to begin with. And you have, right. And you have like all of these, metal kids conflicting with hardcore kids. And like, that was clearly more of a dividing line at that time. But I just remember, I think you guys were, like, I don't know, either there was like a delay, your set time was delayed or whatever. And so like, I could tell there was a sense of urgency that you guys were just like, let's play, let's just do this. And so like I remember Jake coming out there and just being like, we're Converge, fuck you. And I just remember being like, oh hell yeah, like I just felt that intensity where you guys were just like, we don't care if there's 40 people here. I mean, there at the time there was, like you said,
I remember that night actually. We were like, I remember us being really fucking angry that we were even there.
Right. Totally.
Like we were like, what the fuck are we? Who are all these fucking bullshit washed up metal band? Like, oh, I sound like such a dick right now.
No, but
I just remember being like, this isn't fucking who we are, what we're about. What the fuck are we doing here? Fuck everything. Fuck everybody. Let's just destroy the stage.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, honestly, like as a whatever, I mean, in my early 20s, and like I definitely felt the weight of that show. Like I had gone to metal shows before, but it was like, it really felt strange that day. Like it was oppressive. And watching you guys do that, I was like, I mean, I was already, all in on Converge, but like that just made me like you guys that much more, where I was like, oh, they felt what I was feeling of just like this palpable, like just crap that was in the air.
Thanks. I mean, I think, I don't know how to put it into words, but like, kind of going back to what I said about earlier about that Jesuit botch tour and how like there was this kind of status quo in the punk hardcore scene and the metal scene. And, I just remember, not being into any of it or satisfied by any of it in any way. And, not to shit on anybody else's, expression. Everybody should fucking just do whatever the fuck they want to do. Like make the noise they want to make. But like, you could tell when it was contrived, and you could tell when it was trying to adhere to some stupid rule book. And like, it just used to make me fucking sick, like I would just be like, why do you even do this? If all you're trying to do is, wear a uniform and make music that's just as much of a uniform as your clothes. Like, I don't get that.
Yeah.
And so I think one of our goals was always just to show the people it was okay to not be satisfied with that, and it was okay to voice your opinion on it, and it was okay to do something else and do your own thing. And like, you know, I don't know if we succeeded in that, but that was, you know, I think that was a big motivator for us.
Sure. No, I totally, I see that. And I think that's what, I mean, you know, there's many things that I'm sure you and the rest of the guys in Converge can attribute to your longevity, but it's the fact that there's this underlying, at this point, there's been an underlying mission statement for a long time now. And there's been a focus. And I think that's what is able to keep things going on. And then plus the fact that you guys are responsible adults, like that's a lethal combo when you put those two things. We're
learning.
Yeah. I mean, whatever. You're adult. You're wearing adult clothing occasionally. That's fine.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always just been about trying to make music that we enjoy, you know, make a record that you would buy, that you would listen to, you know, and that's that. And like, try to be welcoming to people while at the same time making it clear that we're not going to stand for your half-assed bullshit.
Yeah, totally. No, and I think that's what people, you know, very much identify with. But there's a few last things I want to hit on before I let you go. Was the
sure.
The fact that you joined Converge kind of midstream, so to speak, and then you had experience with Channel and Jesuit, kind of the business aspect of the bands, from booking the shows to the fact that like, oh, we get paid $1,000 for the show, and like how are we dividing this up and all that sort of stuff. This is me just kind of placing something on you, but the business aspect of the bands, has that interested you, or have you like kind of deliberately avoided it under most circumstances, or is it something that you're just like you've learned to become engaged with it?
I've learned to become engaged with it, but
okay.
Overall, like I don't really care that much. As long as no one's getting ripped off, then it's cool. That's basically my feeling on it, and we try to be as fair and open as we can about stuff, and that's about it. It's for very different people who, we all have a common goal, but like everyone's opinion is different. And so, everything's a compromise. Everything is like, all right, if you're cool with that, I'm cool with that, and ultimately, like if you get too caught up in the business side of it and the financial side of it, then that's going to kill your band, because it just makes people angry and jealous and spiteful. And so we all are like, all right, yeah, if you're cool with that, I'm cool with that. Nobody's getting ripped off. We're good. Let's fucking move on. Let's make some music.
Right. It's like, these are decisions that have to be made. Let's talk about it, share our opinions, and then, but yeah, not dwell on it. Just move on from it.
Yeah, pretty much. And I mean, like for example, I don't know how a lot of other bands operate, but like songwriting, a lot of other bands, they don't, like we split all of our songwriting credit or music writing credits like evenly 4 ways between the 4 of us. Like if we played on it, or if you played on it, then you helped write it, because it wouldn't, what we ended up with would not have been the same without the 4 of us in that room. So, and that's really just because none of us really want to argue about it, or, like we could nitpick and be like, I wrote more of this song than you did, but, but I wouldn't have written the song if I wasn't in the room with you. So who cares? Like, I know other bands who really are like super nitpicky about that stuff. Like, well, that this one's my song, so I'm getting all the credit for this and I'm getting all the royalties. And it's like, those bands always have problems, it's like, why do you're like literally fighting over a percentage of crumbs right now. Like, who gives a shit? Like,
right.
If everybody's equal and everybody's happy, then you're all going to move forward together doing what you all want to be doing. And so I don't know. That's my general attitude about pretty much every aspect of, of the way the band is run. Obviously different when it's like someone is very obviously doing more work in one aspect than the other, then that person needs to be compensated for. Like Jake doing visuals or Kurt with recording. Like obviously, like we, Ben and I don't don't deserve any of that, but like, we just want to make sure that everybody's fairly taken care of,
Sure. Oh, no, absolutely. I totally get it. And especially too, I think ultimately there has to be a perspective on it where, when you are writing the type of music that Converge is, like, you're really, like you said, going to be so caught up in 5 percentage points, that makes a difference if you are writing, pop songs. But it's not like you're writing the single that's going to be played on every, Super Bowl commercial or whatever. And it's like, for every commercial placement you guys have gotten, it's because it's been this really sought out, deliberate thing, as opposed to this is, yeah, I think Broken Vow is really going to do it for this commercial or whatever. And it's like, no, So you have to keep it in perspective.
That's never going to happen. But yeah, I mean, and it's like, oh, okay, you might get $15 more than I did on a fucking royalty check. Like, who the fuck cares, dude?
Yeah.
I'll buy you a burrito and we're even.
Totally.
It's cool.
Here's a Starbucks gift card, man. We're good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, who cares? It doesn't matter. Like, that's not why we're doing this. We're doing this to make music that we want to make.
Right.
And we're so fucking lucky that there's money coming in from it. We're so lucky that people care.
Yeah.
We're so fucking lucky that we're able to tour and play these songs, that we made for people. And so like fucking arguing over shit like that, it's just dumb. Like why would you do that?
Sure. It's corrosive. Yeah. No, I agree. Something that I found so extremely interesting. So I just saw you guys when you came through with Neurosis at the observatory here in Orange County.
Oh, nice.
And it was, I mean, you got like I said, I mean, I've probably, and this isn't like, hey, you should like me more, Nate, because I've seen your band a ton of times, but it's like, I've legitimately seen you guys like 40 plus times. And
that's amazing.
Some people may say that. Some people may say you're a little crazy, but that's okay. The thing that
whatever, dude.
Yeah, it's cool, man. I like you.
Go to shows, have fun.
Exactly. But the thing that really struck me, and I've seen Neurosis like many times as well. And so, here are two bands that are, I mean, clearly Neurosis has existed longer than you guys. And, there is a lineage in both of your bands that, most people would look at and be like, oh yeah, like Neurosis, like, yeah, pretty good band, and like Converge, yeah, pretty good band. Like, people will have opinions of the music, but like, most people aren't like throwing crap at your bands, unobjectively because, you've paid your dues, you've done your time. But, and I'm sure you will remember this, where it's like, you guys were getting, I wouldn't say heckled, but there were definitely people who had no context for who a Converge was at all. And
oh yeah,
and I know that it happens on a lot of tours you guys have done with, Death Clock and whoever else. But I just was, here you guys are existing for a band that, whatever, 30-ish years, like roughly speaking.
Yeah.
And
20, I don't know, almost 30.
Yeah, right. You're I'm rounding up. I apologize. But
no worries.
Yeah, the fact that there were like, I was standing next to guys who were just like, like die hipster scum, and I was just like, in my head, I was like, I don't know how you can say that. Like, I mean, yes, I can.
Oh, dude, those guys are. You know what? Those dudes are. Who cares what those dudes think? Those guys, like, hating on hipsters is a thing that people who were hipsters 2 years ago do. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's like, dude, okay, you're just, all you're doing right now is outing yourself as a fucking idiot that doesn't get it. Like, when people talk about hipsters, I'm like, what's a hipster, man? It just sounds to me like you're talking about young people or just people who dress differently than you. Like, just don't dress like them, dude. It's cool. Do your own thing. Who gives a fuck? But yeah, like with people heckling, I don't give a shit, man. Whatever. No,
and you
I don't want you to like my band. I'm trying hard up here to get you to not like me. So
right,
like, fuck off, whatever.
Right. No, and you and Jake, handled it. Like, it's not like you guys were rattled by it. And I mean, I wasn't. The only thing that rattled me was the fact, like, as I left the show, it was one of those things where I was like, you know what? Like, no matter what you do, and you can be doing something for a long period of time, people are always going to think you suck. Like, just unquestionably.
Oh, yeah.
And it just, I don't know. Like I said, it got me really thinking, where I'm just like, oh yeah, here's this institution of two bands, Neurosis and Converge, like, where most people would, like I said, kind of be like, oh yeah, like, yeah, Converge, like, good band. Like, no one's gonna be like, oh God, screw that band, but that guy.
I don't know. There's some people that are definitely like that.
But yeah, so anyways, I guess there isn't necessarily a question tied up in it, but I presume that's kind of a perspective that I guess incorporate in your life, where it's just like, no matter what we do, people are always going to think like, our first 7 inches better and we suck now, or, people are always going to think we suck in some capacity.
Yeah. I mean, that's just, that's just the way it is. I mean, like, with anything you do creatively, once you put it out there into the world, you have no control over it. It's not yours anymore. You literally can't control the way people interpret it. And, trying to get them to like you it's futile. It's stupid. It's pointless. You're not going to make someone like you. You just do what you do. And they either will try and figure you out and learn how to like it if they didn't like it, or they just won't like it. And you're no worse off than you were before they didn't hear your band. You know what I mean? Like,
totally.
Who cares?
Yeah. Moving right along.
I mean, it's surprising to get that, like on a tour with a band like Neurosis, because it's kind of, usually their fans are really, open-minded and plugged into what's going on. And so, like, of course that happened in Orange County. And like,
totally.
Like, when you get the people that are just so hung up on, like, the way things are packaged, or so hung up on genre, or like what's cool and what isn't, and how things should be classified, it's like, well, dude, you don't get it already if that's the way you think about things. Like, who fucking cares, man? Like,
yeah.
I'm not doing this to impress you.
Totally. Yeah. To your point, it definitely does feel where it's like, I think, like, in my head too, I was thinking, okay, like, a person that isn't even just tangentially familiar with Converge, that is going to a Neurosis show, like, I'd be like, you haven't heard Converge at all? Like, just a song in passing? If you already piped into heavy music, like, you would think that someone would have already been like, okay, like, I heard Converge, I think they suck, but I'm not going to show up early and heckle them. But yeah, that's what people do.
Yeah, I mean, that was a very rare occurrence. I think that is the only time that happened on that tour, and it's been a very, very long time since that happened.
Yeah.
Like, when we toured with Death Clock, it happened every night.
Sure.
Like, people fucking hated us on that tour. They just didn't know what to think. And, like, because they came into it knowing death metal and knowing, like, other forms of, like, kind of mainstream metal, or just knowing a cartoon, and, like, that was their idea of what extreme was, like, and so then we play and it's like, what the fuck is this? Like, this doesn't even sound like music to me. I don't even know how to process this.
Right.
And, and like, for me, like, when I see something like that I don't know, that I don't understand, my first thought is, I want to know what this is all about. Like, where's this coming from? What is this? I want to know more about this. I want to understand it. And other people, it just challenges them too much, and they fucking hate it.
Yeah.
That's their first reaction. Fuck this. I hate this. They're not doing it right. They're not doing it the way I like. And it's like, well, cool. It's not for you. So, you learn to just kind of be like, fuck you, whatever, man. I don't care if you like this.
Yeah, it's fine. It's not for you. It's not for you.
And by giving me the finger and letting me know how much you hate it, I'm really going to work harder to make you hate me more.
Totally.
So, how do you want to do this?
Totally. If you just
can make it easy on yourself, or you can let me torture you. Either way, I'm having fun.
Totally. I'm up here for another 35 minutes, bro.
Yep.
Yeah.
You best get used to it because it's going to get way more annoying.
Totally. And especially if you have the 20 kids that are coming up to sing along and bumping you out of the way, that's also going to be rough.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There was a lot of that. I mean, like, that tour in particular, the Death Clock tour, like, that was, it was a high door price. We were pretty out of place on that tour in regards to like the venues we were playing and stuff. But, High on Fire and Mastodon were on that tour, and we were friends with them and like, kindred spirits in a lot of ways. But, we also just, like Mastodon puts on a big fucking awesome show with like video screens, and, High on Fire, they're a, insanely heavy and abrasive metal band. But like, if you're into metal, you can grasp High on Fire pretty quickly. And as soon as Matt starts ripping a solo, you're like, oh, fuck yeah, I get this. I'm into it, you know?
Right.
But with us, it's like, what is that? And so, so like every night, we might get like, there might have been at a show where there was like 1,500, anywhere from 1,500 to 3,000 people. Like, there might have been 20 people there who actually were fans of our band, if we were lucky.
Totally.
And so it was an uphill battle every night. And, I remember like literally like maybe we'd get one person a night that would come up to us and be like, I've never seen anything like that before. What, like, holy shit,
Mm-hmm.
And that made it worth it. It was like, oh, cool. All right. Yeah.
Yeah, we could be
someone to the dark side.
Exactly. You can be that gateway band where they're like, oh yeah, I'm going to start messing with all this stuff.
Yeah. And I mean, so that's kind of with doing like support tours and playing all the festivals and shit like that. It's like, that's kind of the way we look at it. It's, like we can turn some people onto some shit,
Yeah, absolutely. Totally. It's like, when you just like live in your own bubble and you try to make yourself as comfortable as possible, like that's fine to exist in some of the time, but yeah, you have to get out there because you never know whose life, I mean, I know this sounds like total hyperbole and dramatic, but like, you don't know how a person's life can be affected and changed because they see one band.
No, it's true. I mean, it's happened to me,
Totally.
Like, I guess to come full circle, like, that's why I feel an obligation to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Makes perfect sense. The last thing do I still have you, Nate?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. I thought it just got really quiet.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. The last thing I want to hit on was the, now that you're a dad, you have, obligations at home from that perspective. And, clearly Converge tours, not as, comprehensive as you guys used to do, but, you're still very active. How is your relationship with like touring and that, obligation aspect of the band kind of evolved over time? Like, have you always liked touring and then like, reached like low points and kind of evolved into this spot where you're at? Or what's your, opinion of tour at large, as it were?
I've always loved touring. Other people fucking hate it and they do it like it's a necessary evil, but I love it. I love playing live. Even though I get stressed out, I love traveling. I love meeting people. I don't like being stagnant. I don't like just being in the same place for a long time. And as I've gotten older, that's changed a bit, now that, my family has like a home and like a place where we feel comfortable and we like to be. But, I just love being on the road. That said, having a family and trying to juggle those things is pretty difficult. And literally every time we go on tour, it's a different dynamic trying to figure out how we're going to make it work. My wife works full time. And so it's difficult figuring out childcare and stuff like that. But, if you want to make it work, you figure out a way to make it work.
Sure. Well, I'm saying,
and then if you can't make it work, then you stop doing it. That's it.
Totally. Well, I'm just surprised that she has to work, because you should be sitting on a mansion of Converge millions, right?
Oh yeah, totally.
Right. That's awesome. Well, Nate, I really appreciate you doing this, dude. This was super fun, and I appreciate you sharing.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me, man.
How about that chat, right? Thank you very much, Nate, for coming on the show and sharing about yourself, sharing about all that I asked of you. So I appreciate that. And next week is another rad chat that I knew maybe at some point this would happen, but Norm Brannon, who played guitar in Texas Is the Reason. He also did a incredibly influential zine to me, and I know many other people, called Antimatter. And I hit him up, and he was like, yeah, let's do this. There are certain people who, like I said, they're always perpetually on my list. And when I'm able to tick them off my list, it makes me really happy, because Nate was one of them, and then Norm is another one. So real fun stuff heading into this holiday season. So that is next week. And like I always encourage you, and I genuinely do mean it, please be safe, everybody.
You've been listening to the Jabberjaw Podcast Network, jabberjawmedia.com. Shh.
Hey, Miles.
Yes.
It's Jack from work.
Yes, hi.
Did you know that we host a daily news and culture podcast where people can go to get caught up on what is happening?
Are you confused about that? You're talking about the Daily Zeitgeist.
I just wanted to make sure you knew, and that everybody knew, that you could listen to us every day, twice a day, talk about what is happening, and they could learn everything without feeling the life drained from their soul.
Yeah, I think at the Daily Zeitgeist, we like to give people a balance of just enough news that they feel informed and just enough laughs that they're not overwhelmed and can have a decent day after listening.
So guys, listen to the Daily Zeitgeist on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever fine podcasts are given away for free.
Leftovers or the DMV number 97 or house cleaning or Chumba Casino always brings the fun. Play over 100 different games online for free from anywhere. You could redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. Live the Chumba life. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
I'm Amber Ruffin. And I'm her gorgeous sister, Lacey Lamar.
Okay, fun fact, Lacey is not that gorgeous.
Amber, get on with it.
Okay, everybody, we have exciting news to share. We're teaming up with Will Ferrell's Big Money Players Network to bring you our brand new podcast called The Amber and Lacey and Amber Show.
We did it. We sold a bunch of books, we conquered late night, and now we'll play fun quizzes and games with friends and take you along for the ride. Listen to The Amber and Lacey and Amber Show on Will Ferrell's Big Money Players Network, on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.